I have come to understand what Donald Trump, what pops into his head and he says, he's going to carry it out. Once again, he talked about the tariffs. He talked about, he's going to deport people. And this whole thing with Mr. Abreu Garcia, it's that old wisdom and terrifying is if you're not speaking up for this man, there will be no one left to speak up for you.
Well, that was completely outrageous when we saw that this morning. So that naturally had to be part of the question that we asked you on X, which is, what is the most outlandish Democrat martyr that you could think of? And here are some of the best responses that we have. Let's start with dangerous thoughts. There can only be one from the Senate. Cory Booker, a.k.a. Senator Spartacus. There are many others parts of the party, but Spartacus stands out as he wants to. Matthew. I
love that. I saw this one when it appeared on the Twitters, and I think it's hilarious, and I couldn't agree more. Cory Booker is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, just to me, it's a completely ridiculous person at this point. And calling him Senator Spartacus is a nice touch. Back
in my sports days, he would come out to Stanford football games, and I would see him there at practice the days before the game, and it was not anything that I was like warm and fuzzy about. Let's just put it that way. Let's go ahead and move on to Jim. He replies with Luigi Mangione. They're cheering on a guy who blew someone's head off right out in the open. Taylor Lorenz was fawning all over him. They're truly the party of murderers, rapists, and pedophiles, and that should be on their official charter at this point. Jim has a pretty good point there.
Well, I mean, what's astounding is they're leaning into it, right? They keep on leaning into this. They say, no, we actually support the guy who's a wife beater, maybe trafficking people and also a gang member. They keep on doing that. And so he's got a point, and they're hanging themselves at this point.
Don rounds it out for the day. He keeps it short and simple. He says transgender women, i.e. males, and women's sports. And you just look at this one, and this one is all over. And thankfully, people have been standing up against this, and the tide is definitely turning.
Yeah, I mean, the tide has been turning. It's an 80-20 issue, as everyone likes to say now, after our friends like Terry Schilling and many others worked hard over the last few years to turn against this madness. But it's not over in terms of the Democratic Party. You have to pledge fealty to the tranny movement. That's the deal. And until you had, say, California, think about a state like that, until you have, say, some of the Southern California Hispanic contingent. It's a lot of interesting politicians in the Democratic Party coming out of Southern California. A lot of those people privately don't believe any of this stuff. But until one of them says, no, I'm not going to kiss the ring up in Sacramento, right, then it doesn't matter. And so right now they're still tyrannically ruling the Democratic Party and a lot of America.
Well, the leftists, even at CNN, they're not willing to give up on Kilmar Garcia and the illegals just yet. Take a look.
He should be deported.
Respectfully, sir, Michael, we can't make it about Kilmar. Like, that's just one person.
But that's the case we're talking about.
That is, but I guess if we look at the macro and not the micro, and just look at the process of this, because he's not the only person there. There were they indiscriminately rounded up people and deported them. We also saw in the news this week, maybe it was last week, it's been a long year this week, but the Massachusetts attorney who got the letter saying that you have 7 days to leave the country. This administration has already proven that there are flaws in this system, and they are randomly deporting people without due process. That's not specific to him. That should be specific to all of us.
I mean, how long will we have to deal with this? That's what I wonder. How long will we have to hear this? Because what has happened, as I said earlier, is that public opinion has shifted. And it shifted because of the winning. It shifted because people with spines in the Republican Party said, enough. We are going to mass deport. I remember the first time that phrase started to be used, and I adopted it immediately because it's what makes sense. I mean, mass deportations is what's needed simply to solve the problem. It was laughed at, though. This was something that was considered extreme, and CNN would get a lot of mileage out of it. If you said to almost anyone in the consultant class 2 years ago, what would happen if Donald Trump wins office again and tries to mass deport tens of millions of people? They would laugh in your face, and they would say, we will make that so unpopular because every station will show pitiful stories of, really sad stories of the cases right on the edge that, of course, you're always going to have a few of them, and they're going to play them up, and all NPR is going to, they're all going to sing in the same choir, and it's going to be very, very unpopular. Instead, people are turning CNN off and saying, no, we do want mass deportations, which is why, as Jill showed us earlier, CNN has to report that 56% of the people are for it. So this is something where you actually did have a battle, a cultural battle, a political battle, and one side, they were arm wrestling, on one side just definitively won. And I wonder how long they're going to keep on with this, because I don't think it's going to work.
I would love to be in the CNN newsroom on days like yesterday and today, because on one hand, they had to go play Donald Trump's approval rating is now 56%. And on the other hand, they're like, well, we can't make this about one illegal, right? There's so many great illegals out there that we need to go through and support this community. No, we don't. Right? This is what we're saying. We've had enough of this at this point in time. And the American people, according to your own network, are the numbers are backing it up. They don't want this anymore. It doesn't matter how many sob stories you have, because for every sob story or every AOC going down to the border, you have a Patty Moran who comes out yesterday. And as we played on the show, and Chris Bedford was there in the White House press briefing room, you have Americans being murdered, being raped by these illegal aliens that should have never been here to begin with. And now that Donald Trump is taking the steps to right these wrongs and to make this actually a safe country again, CNN is going back and forth. They're so conflicted over how they should handle this.
Yeah, and so they're losing time, right? They see the popularity, they see the shift in public opinion, and they bet on the wrong horse with this guy. Like, they chose the worst possible example, and they lost. And I think that's the beginning, because the Trump administration is going to have to deport a hell of a lot more people than it has so far. And so this was like, a test. Can we get away with this tactic of using one egregious case? And they couldn't. It blew up in their face, and that keeps happening, which is a good thing, because we're going to need a lot of spine moving forward as we continue to get rid of all the people who are here illegally.
And it's a good learning lesson for the Republicans out there. I don't know if you're watching, Republicans, but when you grow a spine and you actually do things that the American people want you to do, we will get behind you. We will support you. Things are going to go your way. We just need more people to stand up and say the right things and back us.
Absolutely, Jill. That's what we need. We need more people stand up, say the right thing over and over, and do it. And ultimately, people will come around.
We're here for you, Republicans. We're waiting for more of these cases. We'll definitely showcase them here on the show and show them some love.